And it's funny, she doesn't know it, but when I was talking to Jamie about it, she first called me, and it was very much out of the blue. And I was in my office at the National Football League, kind of typing away, and I picked up the phone and I talked to her, and she ended up giving me probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, because she said, well, we'd like you to be one of the speakers here because we just generally think you're cool. And as somebody who spent also 13 straight years at JDS, I think people can relate when you go here and you then throw into a much larger world, whether that's the state of Maryland or Harvard University or the NFL or New York City, all of which I sort of inhabited after 1999. That's probably the best thing that you could have said to me. So thank you. Now, I also wanted to just say that when I was thinking about what I wanted to say, I realized how rare it is that somebody gets the chance to actually thank their school directly and in person. If anything, it's maybe a note to teachers, and some of my former teachers are certainly sitting here today. But to be able to kind of stand here on the premises, so to speak, and just say, thank you, JDS, for everything is a rare and true honor for me. It's, you know, such a special occasion to be honored here, but the pleasure is definitely all mine. And I just want to say that, you know, that's really a great opportunity to be able to come back and thank an institution that really gave me the foundation to succeed and, you know, sort of journey, as Ethan was talking about. I'll talk a little bit about my cool job and the fun things that I do there and how I got there. But I also wanted to start off and sort of make sort of my own personal ploy for why I think JDS education is so rare and important, why I think Judaism and Jewish framework starting out at a very young age is really important. You know, I think it always starts the same way, frankly, for me. When I'm sitting at dinner meetings now where I'm pitching billion-dollar deals to 32 owners, it doesn't really matter. Inevitably, someone in the industry, whether I work with them or not, will ask me, you know, where did you go to school? And I don't talk about Harvard. I think they usually either guess it or I willingly skip it. And they talk about high school. And I say, trust me, you've never heard of it. And then inevitably, they'll take the bet and they'll say, no, I know Maryland, I know education, and I know all the schools there. And I'll say, trust me, you've never heard of it. And they'll keep fighting it, and they'll say, no, I really do. I know Bullis. I've heard of Bullis. Okay, sure. And if I had $1 for every one of those bets that I win, I'd be very wealthy at this point. But and I always say, you know, Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School with great pride, and get the blinking stare, and they sort of don't even know what to do with that. And then the questions start firing away, but it's to me always a true pleasure because it's probably when I think, a personal best kept secret. And it's always a happy moment for me to sort of share just a little bit of insight of how special the experience was for me, and I hope is, and I'm sure is still for students here. Think about just the balance, I think, that it always struck, which was this sort of unconditional love that you get at age, for me, 5, walking in, all the way through 18. And, you know, people talk about unconditional love, you talk about your family members or your loved ones or your pet, and you get that. But I don't think you really talk about schools giving unconditional love a lot. JDS is very much that, still is. And to be able to have the freedom, I think every one of us, I can speak for every one of my classmates, to be able to be sort of free to be who you are, as opposed to at age 5 or 6 or 10 or 17 have to sort of check off boxes or pick a table at the school cafeteria or affiliate based on census boxes was not sort of part of the conversation. And I remember I wrote an essay in defense of Jewish education and specifically Jewish day schools, I guess 5 or 6 years ago now. And you know, that's very much what I wrote in 2 or 3 very short paragraphs of sort of, it was the air that we breathed. It wasn't sort of a choice, and then you had to sort of reconcile your Jewishness or your minority status, whatever that might be, against the world at large. Because I think, while that's very important, at later points in someone's life, and certainly vital to moving and change in human history, as a 5-year-old, I don't really think you need to walk in the door and start thinking, which cafeteria table am I going to choose? Or which box am I going to fill based on how my parents pray, or do I celebrate Christmas or do I not? And am I with the kids that look like me, or the kids who don't, and so forth. And I definitely know that a lot of my counterparts who went to public schools, nothing wrong with public schools, who went to Bullis, nothing wrong with Bullis, and who certainly got to Harvard like I did, you have to make those choices later. And to not have to affiliate so early just means that the question is about, well, what do you like? You know, what's your story behind your name? And so it wasn't about, you know, limiting a child's personal development. If anything, it was just such an expansive experience. That, combined with the context, I think, of Judaism, so that it was the air that we breathed. So it wasn't just Tuesday or Wednesday, it was another day to pray. It was another day to sort of, whether you wanted to or not, because we were stressed out about the test, I'm sure, that day. Also start off with the context of there's a force that's greater than you out there, that it's not just your individual story. So while we, JDS, and our community are here to support you in everything that you want to learn and approach and grow through and fail through, God is with you in all of that. The legacy of your ancestors is with you in all of that. You and whatever you do with your own legacy is also part of something much greater. So I just want to sort of make that my little teaching statement for today. It's, I think, something very rare that not a lot of kids get to experience growing up, and certainly not every single day for 13 years straight. And it gave me a very special toolbox with which to approach the world. And I probably dip into that toolbox more than I ever think to every single day in some way, shape, or form, and that's very much JDS. I always think about 34 days and counting. I was by the hour. I think it was February 11th, I'm not sure, but yeah, and we were so psyched. It's such a huge moment, especially if you've been here like you have since you were age 5. For me, it was the same building every day. And I just remember, fast forward, we were on kibbutz actually at the end of our Israel trip, and it was like 7 of us, and we're sitting on Tiritz-Feed, and we're chilling out, and there's absolutely nothing in life to do. And it was the most amazing thing because I'll never forget it. It had to be 7 or 8 of us. And we had all walked that journey, so to speak, together. And we were sitting there, and we were so aware, we externalized what we talked about, we were so aware in that moment that we would never have that kind of freedom again. And it was earned, and you know, there was pride in that, but there was such an awareness of the blessing of that moment. And we didn't have to worry about rents, and we didn't have to worry about jobs, and we didn't have to worry about all the other things that the world was going to throw at us. And most of us at that time, myself included, had already been accepted into college. So we were done with high school. We didn't have to worry about grades. We didn't have a report that we were going to have to submit at the end of the trip. We were just there to chill out and have a great time. And I think that moment and that awareness with my friends, I think about it now and I say, you know, the experience was undoubtedly my parents writing a very big check, so thank you for that. But the awareness of the blessing was very much JDS. And cultivating that awareness in everything that we did fostered a sense of humility. I know why I'm speaking first. My story cannot compare or the accomplishments to my counterparts tonight, and that's great. But just to be aware that nothing's a given and that your individualism is cherished in the universe unto itself, and it's okay in whichever direction that goes, but it is God-given. And to always approach the day and the tasks at hand accordingly. And I think, again, being able to carry that with me and try and strike that balance and everything else that I've done is very much because of this institution, so thank you. Yeah, just 2 seconds about how I got to NFL, because I think I'm supposed to speak for a couple more minutes. I think I'll start off and say, you know, most people who knew me back then, as I was talking to a few people before, I was known back here as a great athlete. Yeah, I was a jock, I lived it, I breathed it, that's all I did. And I usually accredit my falling in love with music to Harvard University, but I'm so glad that you guys had the choir sing, because there's no doubt that at some points, many points in the year, probably between 1996 and 1998, I was desperately, violently jealous of the JDS, the Jewish a cappella group at the time. I never had time to join it. I never had the gall to get on stage and join it. So I was always just watching by the sidelines, and it was amazing to me. But I was busy playing sports. Interestingly enough, I decided not to play sports when I got to Harvard. I had to fill my time with other things, so I decided to make up for lost time and join a cappella group. So I joined Harvard Noel's Jewish a cappella group in Marshir, and these kids behind me put us to shame. In every regard, Michael can attest to that.
I have a CD in my office.
And then I also joined a much larger choir that I ultimately ended up presiding over, the Kuumba singers at Harvard College, and very much like JDS, struck the balance between, again, everybody in here is welcome to be who they are, but always through the context of prayer and spirituality and true mosaic of, pray before, pray after, have very transcendent spiritual experiences through the music that we were singing and through others. So that again was informed by JDS and just continued at Harvard, and I think that was very much the glue that kept me there and kept that a special experience for me as well. Ironically, music got me into the sports industry, not being an athlete at all. I moved to LA. I wanted to pursue my own music industry dreams, and I did that. And I moved to New York to be able to perform music live on the best stages in the world. So after living in LA for about 18 months, I moved to New York City. I put together a band. I put together an album. I realized I did not have enough money to put my album all the way onto shelves and iTunes. So I got a job. And so I put that Harvard education to work, and I joined the NFL. And it's so ironic when I look back, because I did not want to be there. I just wanted to be singing all the time, and I was going back and forth between both coasts. But there I was, and the human resources person had said, "Don't worry, I'm a singer too." And I think if she hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have joined. And I took a job that really was just to meet the minimum standard of giving me the benefits and the money that I needed. I did that. I funded my first album. I felt a huge sense of completion, and then I woke up and I realized, oh my God, I'm at the National Football League, and I used to want to be the executive producer of ESPN when I was young. So maybe I should get serious about that, and I did. And 5.5 years later, I have the best job in the world, and I'm sure at the Q&A I'll talk a little bit more about what it means to be licensing for consumer products at the National Football League. But essentially, I've lived the dream, but I always look back and I say it's because I started from a foundation of being free to pursue according to my own dreams and not fit into boxes. So it very much starts here and it ends here, and thank you for having me back.